You are listening to the Space-Tastic Mysteries podcast. We are concluding Anna Gale Line's latest novel, The Lightyears, which involves a Mobile Alliance surgical hospital battling an epidemic at the front lines of the Freedom Alliance Crimson Fleet War. This is episode 23, The Showdown. If you have not subscribed, do so now, and if you are on YouTube, hit the bell to be notified of new episodes.
Okay, let's say you are right. I am. Let's say you are, and I go with you to Sierra-Wun. How'd I know you are not making me walk into a trap? I guess you don't. You just have to trust your gut. Jake walked over to me and whispered next to my ear, "You okay?" I nodded. I have been talking to a woman who claims to be your biological mother. I am having their DNA and fingerprints analyzed by hand. However, I suspect she is your mother. She talks and acts like you. She says we need to get to the lab on Sierra-Wun before they destroy evidence. You two either cooked this up, or it's the truth, I decided, looking over to the man in the bed. This is Dr. Jake Riley. If you are my father, he is Zariah, your granddaughter's father. I turned to Jake. If you believe them, we will go. I know it could be a trap, but I feel that we should go. What if we don't go and people die? Jake started, putting his arm around me. What if we let the agents on Sierra-Wun try to locate the lab, but they cannot because they do not have the knowledge these two have? What if more people die because of it? I agree, but, I confirmed, I am concerned that this might be a ruse to get us to that planet to kill us or do us harm. I don't have too much luck with these parental people. We will prepare. We will be prepared in case someone or something comes after us, Jake insisted, resting his head on mine. I get it. This has been a long, tiring battle, but we are in the home stretch. Let's just finish this, so we can get on with our personal plan. I nodded, watching the man in the bed eye us curiously. Okay, but we are going to have to figure out what medications we are going to need for them. We will put them in the medication device that will attach to their arms. S2, meet me in Hangar Bay Alpha in 30 minutes. I straightened up and walked out the doors. 30 minutes later, as I opened the hatch to the spacecraft, I filed the flight plan. Jake led the older couple into the spacecraft. I moved to the cockpit, where I went through the pre-flight checklist. I knew how to fly a spacecraft, but I kept the checklist with me when I flew. I mentally checked everything off my list. If a person relied on their memories, if they became distracted, they could miss a step, a crucial step, that could mean the difference between a successful mission and disaster. I set a course for Sierra-Wun. It would be an hour before we arrived, so I decided to go over the information in the chip that Fireball decoded for me. I started to read until my eyes blurred. Then I saw it, the passage about the Sierra-Wun laboratory and how if they were captured, or if Kilo-Ait went supernova, that they would unleash the epidemic on the current inhabitants of Sierra-Wun to wipe them out because they sided and aided the humans who created the Biodome. I walked into the dining room area, spying Jake, my father and mother sitting at the table. When they looked up at me, I said, the encoded information on that chip confirmed what they said. The Island Committee plans on destroying the inhabitants of Sierra-Wun because they helped the humans create the Biodome on Kilo-Ait. Do we know what kind of species live on Sierra-Wun? We know very little about them. We are going to need a map of this laboratory. Your father was telling me, Jake stated, holding my gaze, that the Island Committee intel is that there is going to be a meeting on Sierra-Wun to discuss how they are going to unleash the epidemic. We were discussing interrupting their meeting. We could have agents outside the doors, and we can try to get a confession out of them. I answered, running my fingers on my good hand through my hair. Do we know where this meeting is being held, and if so, how are we going to get in? Where did they get the information? We still have allies in the Island Committee and their sympathizers, my father maintained. I nodded. Are we going as ourselves or are we masking ourselves to look like one of them? We are going to raid their meeting as the federal agents that we are. This reign of terror of theirs, Jake continued, glancing over at my father, has got to stop. Being captured kept me away from you and our daughter. That is unacceptable and unforgivable. I get that. But I also think that the Island Committee think they are in control, and I think we need to rip that control away from them. We need to take down the masterminds. Those people who were making sure I believed them as my parents for the last 8 years. What are you planning to do? Jake questioned, moving closer to me, putting his arms around me. Are you hungry? When he saw me shake my head, he admonished, Donnie, you have to eat something. He broke away from me and entered the galley, looking in the cabinets and refrigerator. According to the information, they have the tattoos that cover the tracking device, I advised him, closing my eyes briefly, then I opened them slowly. We are going to follow that tracking information and confront them with the evidence I have on the chip. How are you sure that they are the Oracle? Came my mother's voice. She had done very little speaking during her time with us. Was she okay? Did the surgery go all right? I would check her DNA monitor readings later. They admitted it, plus it is all laid out in the information I discovered when I was taken captive. They are creatures of habit. New planet or not, they are going to follow the same routine. For some reason, they never deviate from it. What is their routine? Required my father. Let's discuss that as we go over the map and plot how we are going to do this. A few hours later, we walked toward the coffee shop where the Oracle had their coffee every morning. They drank their coffee and discussed their plans for the day. I spotted them from the window. They sat with their group of allies, the other island committee members, I suspected. Seeing people who had been in captivity with me sit at that table made my stomach feel as if it were going to drop into my shoes. Was this a real-life example of if we can't beat them, join them? I didn't know, but what I knew was that these people betrayed me, and I did not do betrayal well. I gestured my father and Jake to follow me into the cafe. We ordered, gathered our drinks and headed to a table within earshot of the meeting. We need to unleash that disease as soon as possible, so we can take over this planet, I heard the wannabe father say. We have waited so long to make sure these people pay for what they helped those humans do to our planet. I thought that Dr. Cassidy was going to ruin things, the wannabe mother stated. She found the cure to that disease. From what I understand, she has perfected it and gave it to the members of her crew that had it. We have to make sure she does not cure these people. You are worrying too much, he insisted, because she is going to rue the day she messes with us. None of those humans are smart enough to go up against us. I clenched my fists and air bumped the table. We are going to take out her and her crew if she even tries. Then I heard a familiar voice ask, what are you going to do to her and the people who help her? Cassia, either she betrayed me or she was getting information to help me. In my gut, I suspected the former rather than the latter, which sickened me. Jake and I exchanged a troubled look. I am going to kill her. She deserves it for trying to stop us from our mission, the man stated. And if you have any loyalties to her, we will take you out too. Cassia shook her head. Nope, I am pro-island committee all the way. I have never been her friend. Everything she has told me, I have told you. Jake and I exchanged another troubled look. She foiled our gas and bombs on her vessel, so we are going to have to take more drastic measures. We are going to have to bomb her crew with her on it. She has always been the bane of my existence since she married Josh. He wasn't supposed to marry her. We weren't supposed to be family, but he fell for her. Why? I will never know. She is not that pretty, and she is so annoying. Let's go, I told my people, leading them over to the island committee members' table. When all of them looked at me, Jake and I flashed our badges. On the authority of the Intergalactic Intelligence Bureau, you are all under arrest. For what? You have no authority to arrest us, screamed the man who had pretended to be my father. Those humans who brought that biodome to your planet also made Kilo-Ait and Sierra-Wun for that matter a part of the Earth colonies pact, I started, moving around the table. That means I have all of the authority of Earth to arrest you for the genocide you unleashed on my people and are about to unleash on the people of Sierra-Wun. I stopped behind an empty chair, putting my hands down on it. There is the matter of creating a disease, killing people with it, taking our people captive, killing people who you abducted, interfering with an investigation. Jake moved forward, the attempted gassing and bombing of a Freedom Alliance MASH space vessel. You cannot prove anything, the man said with grave deliberation. If I were in your position, I would hope that was true too. Unfortunately for you, I revealed, holding up a chip. I was recording everything I heard and saw in captivity. I knew the plot. I knew how you created the disease, how you knew the planet was going supernova. Your plot to kill the humans. Then my memory was erased. The fact that it was erased indicates that you know I am telling the truth. Too bad for you that I have the chip and remember everything. He stood up and grabbed my arm. Then we are going to make sure you forget again. I shook my head, leaned in and flipped him onto the floor. That is not going to help your cause because the information has already been sent to the IIB, along with all the information our agents discovered in your lab here on Sierra-Wun. You would have not had any knowledge of where that laboratory was located, said Cassia, running her eyes over me. I know how you work. You are lying. Am I? My agents are there right now. They are in the laboratory right under this place. They are raiding it. They found journals upon journals of handwritten, encoded documentation that one of our best people is encoding. She stood, knocked over the table, causing their food and drinks to shatter on the floor. We did it to save our planet. She threw me to the ground. We did it because you humans came in and destroyed our planet. She put a gun to my head. You mined our natural resources that allowed us to shape-shift more than a few hours a day. I knocked the gun out of her hand. When I reached for it, I noticed my father and Jake taking on the others at the table. Her and I wrestled on the ground for the gun. I matched her every kick, her every punch. She gained control of the gun and aimed it at my heart. You know too much. You have to die. She shot at me several times. When I didn't collapse, she looked confused. I tackled her and took the gun, motioning our agents to take her away. Once the agents took away the other members of the group, Jake came over to me and whispered, "It is over." I cannot believe Cassia was one of them. I agreed, yeah, she was convincing as a human. Then we helped the agents get them on a spacecraft headed to Earth before we sat down with my father and ate breakfast and conversed about everything from politics to religion to what happened with my siblings in that time I was raised in foster care. Wow, we are finally married, Jake exclaimed, studying his ring in the mid-sized car I rented to drive us to the hotel I booked for our honeymoon. He then moved closer to me, who was driving, putting his arm around me. You are finally my wife. I am glad we did it before returning to the Lightyears. I am glad the epidemic is over. The Lightyears is no longer in danger, or is for that matter, and that I finally found my real parents, and will eventually meet the real Brianna and Peter. I cannot believe how convincing the fakes were. I am glad it is all over, and we are married. I cannot wait for our next adventure. The end.
If you would like to learn more about Anna Gale or to purchase her fiction and nonfiction books, go to AnnaGaleLines.com. That is AnnaGaleLines.com. Right now you can buy 3 ebooks and get the 4th one free. There you can sign up for the newsletter to keep up to date on what is happening in the world of the Anna Gale Lines podcast, where she inspires people to take control of their lives, and her science fiction podcast, the Space-Tastic Mysteries podcast. To follow her on social media, it is Anna Gale Lines on Twitter, Lady Anna Gale on TikTok, Anna Gale Lines Artist on Instagram, at the Anna Gale Lines podcast on YouTube. You can join the Facebook page at Author Anna Gale. Thank you for listening and thank you for being you.